These weeks you could see me working on several paintings of the government building. Last month I started a painting with the same subject seen from another angle in different light. I will finish that one this week, and for me it looks amazing how different these paintings seem to be, although they show the same subject. The reason is clear, we will find out that later in this video. Of course, I'm curious which one you prefer. On Monday I will work on a sketch for a house portrait. We will visit a client for this one on Tuesday. I hope he likes it. And Thursday I will receive the client for the house portrait I made last week. Wednesday is reserved to prepare my lecture next week. I will tell you more about that in this video.
Nou, ik ben benieuwd.
Ja. Wat heb je in je hoofd? Heb je iets in je hoofd?
Ja, want ik had het schilderij wat je al gemaakt hebt in mijn hoofd. Ja.
Het wordt natuurlijk anders, hè?
Ja, dat verwacht ik wel.
Hey, ik heb geen lekkers bij me, Beesje, sorry. Ik heb geen lekkers bij me. Wel iets moois.
En je hoeft helemaal niet zielig te doen, want dat ben je absoluut niet.
Dank je.
En dat is niet voor jou, dus netjes. Zo.
Dit is dus een schets van hoe ik het in eerste instantie zou willen schilderen. Dus de achterkant hoor, is een andere schets, verschrik niet.
Ja, geweldig. Maar moet die auto erop?
Nee. Ik vind het ook best een lelijke auto. Ik heb hem een beetje vereenvoudigd. Het is de nieuwe Hyundai. Zo'n dikke elektrische auto. Die vind ik niet zo mooi. Ik zou hem kunnen vervangen door een andere auto. Ik zou ook kunnen kijken hoe het is om helemaal geen auto te schilderen. Dat kan ook nog wel. Ik ben altijd gul met auto's in de stad, want ze horen voor mij bij.
Ja, nee.
Ik zou hem zelf graag willen vervangen door een Fiat Panda of zo.
Als het dan toch moet.
Ja. Ja, als jij ermee akkoord gaat, zet ik er wel een graag een sumier autootje in.
Ik heb er 2. Zelf.
Is dit jouw auto?
Nee.
Oh, die heb ik net af zitten kraken.
Nee, dat zou ik dus niet doen.
Nee.
Ik rijd al, ik weet niet hoe lang, altijd alleen maar Franse auto's. Maar ik heb ook 2 keer een Lancia gehad.
Ja, en welke was beter?
Ja, die Lancia, die reed.
Ja?
Maar, nou ja, de eerste die ik kocht. Ik heb altijd Citroën gereden, ook wel eens Peugeot tussendoor. En nu heb ik een Renault en een Citroën. Maar ik was mijn auto was aan vervanging toe en in mijn fractie zat Sergio Pininfarina.
Well, that was easy. I showed him the first sketch and then we started talking about cars. It can be more difficult sometimes. People can be disappointed because you don't see their house number or their second name next to the door, and then sometimes you find a solution, but sometimes you have to explain why you can't see this, and well, then you have to prepare a certain course or lesson about art. But this was really easy. It was very easy. Also about my question if I could shot a video in his house. Everything was all right, and he really loved to sketch. And yeah, that's fine, because now I feel totally free to do it. So I think in 2 weeks I will start with this one. It will be quite a large watercolor. There are to do some other things. Today I maybe will finish 2 watercolors for another client. And then at the end of next week I will have my first presentation. A presentation about making art. So actually the same story as my videos. Last year I made a podcast, a Dutch podcast about making art and the creative process, and I spoke with a lot of artists about that, and well, there's a lot to say about it, and I will do this in the presentation, and I will show paintings not only from myself. I will show some interviews that I recorded with artists, and I want to make it nice to hear and to see, so I'm looking for musicians as well, so that people are not only listening to my speaking voice, but sometimes to music as well, just to let their thoughts go, or see a piece on the wall that I'm projecting with a beamer. Well, and I wrote everything down, all the things that I could talk about, but I have to make a presentation about this, so I will do that as well these days. So I will be less painting this week, next week, and then I will have my first tryout actually, and then next month I will have some presentations for bigger groups. Varnishing is a tricky thing, I find. You need really a flat layer, like a film on the painting, and that's not easy with this kind of varnish. Sometimes you find those open pieces on your painting when the varnish is drying, but this stayed really flat. I actually don't know why. All I know is that I used universally prepared canvas, so it's prepared for acrylics and oil. I put a layer of gesso on it, gesso mixed with a warm grey color, and then I did the underpainting with burnt umber and white spirit. And then later I made a painting just using oil paint and a little of linseed oil if needed. They will come and get it tomorrow, so I can put it in the frame tonight. And then this day I reserved for doing the preparations for my, well, how do I call it, reading, presentation, session, starting from next week. Maybe it's funny to involve you just a little in this story. I'm really lucky that I found some percussionists joining me during the presentations, because my wish is to that the audience has an experience instead of just me speaking and them listening. So I would like to have a conversation with them, and then I want to let them hear my story, explanations, show something, some interviews I did for my Dutch podcasts. And sometimes it's really good to have a kind of minimal music when I'm telling something. And actually it all starts with a description of the first moment I remember that I saw a painting in a landscape. I think I was 8 years old, and it was spring. It was a late afternoon, and I was just cycling around in this actually quite boring village where I grew up. And there were midges above the grass, above the meadows, and blackbirds singing, and I felt the wind on my cheeks. And then suddenly I saw a construction site. They were building new houses over there, and the sun was already going down, so the sky was totally warm orange. And this chaos of this construction site became, for me, suddenly a totally logical rhythm in cool gray with this warm orange sky behind it. And I found it incredible beautiful. It was amazing because it became a beautiful rhythm. And actually, it was like I saw a music piece in a landscape. So I was 8 years old, and I was just standing there, watching. And I wish I could bring it home, but I knew it was impossible. And then I came home, I think, with the feeling that I saw one of the best films that I ever saw. And of course, the next day I tried to capture this in paint. My mother always took care that there were brushes, pencils, paint, boards. We used those round boards. They were from the bakery. They used them for the pastries in our region. And they became quite flat when the paint was drying. But the paint I used was, paint for kids. So trying to make a painting with cool gray and a warm orange sky behind this became a mess, and I just threw it away. And then I think the next day I came back to this spot with some paint to try to make it just right there on the spot, but then it was gone. And that was the moment for me already to learn that this beauty is not in the spot. It's not in this site. The beauty is in the moment. From now this is easy to understand, but when you are only 8 years old, it's quite complex. But the years that became later were to learn that it's, and I told this earlier in my videos, the beauty is not in trying to copy reality. The beauty is in the essence of knowing where this beauty is. And for me, the beauty is always in the moment. And this moment is pure love for me. It's an emotion, and this emotion has become an idea, and this idea has become a goal, a daily goal, and that helps me to that helps me form my decisions that I have to take in those countless possibilities when you are making a painting. This story is the beginning of the presentation, with this beautiful minimal music of these two percussionists, and then I start speaking about beginning, how to begin when you want to make art or create something. I think it's a universal thing, not only in art, but you start with playing, messing around. I spoke about this with lots of artists for my podcast, and fortunately enough, I put all those interviews on video as well, so I show some of those interviews to illustrate what I'm talking about. And then we will talk about all those chapters actually you are going through when you are making a painting or a sculpture or whatever. Met Titus. Hoi. We're almost there. I need to do the trees here next week. I'm not sure if it's disturbing that the windows here are weaker than the windows over here and there. Actually, they must be the same, of course. And I will find something to put here or there with a strong color in red, maybe. It's a totally different painting than that one, and it's the same subject. So actually that one was seen from here, and that's telling why I really don't care what the subject is I'm painting. The only thing I care about is how this subject can manifest in light, in atmosphere. And it's funny to see how that works when you make two paintings in the same time, not the same time but the same period, and you can see them both, and then you see that it's useless to compare. They are totally different. So the light is the subject, the moment is the subject, and of course the building is the shape, the skeleton of the painting, but it's not the story. The story is the light. As I see the weather forecast, I see it will be sunny next week, so I'm able to visit some locations for new house portraits. But they are quite far, so it will take a few days driving next week, but it doesn't matter. Then I have all my pictures and sketches here in the studio, and then the week after I can do a lot in the same time. Have a nice weekend, and thank you again for watching, and see you next week.